Hey guys, just a quick prefix to this video. I forgot to mention one thing. Whenever you're working with airbags, always disconnect the battery, hold the brake pedal, and wait 5 minutes. You don't want your airbag blowing up. So do that before any of these steps, and let's get started. Hey guys, today I'll be showing you how to replace your steering wheel and take it fully apart so you can put an aftermarket steering wheel on. In this case, I'm going to be putting on an aftermarket wheel made from an OEM core, so I'll be retaining the airbag and all the buttons. But first I'm going to show you how to remove it. The first step in removing the steering wheel is to remove the airbag. You'll need a long tool like a hex wrench or a flat screwdriver, and you're going to stick it in this hole right here, this hole right here, and the same upper hole on the other side. Now there are little spring bars inside the steering wheel that hold the airbag in, so when you press this in, you'll be able to reach a spring bar at some point. You're going to have to feel around. It's going to be pretty difficult and pretty annoying, but as soon as you get your wrench or whatever tool you're using on the spring bar and push, you can see the airbag pops out. You're going to have to do this 3 times. This bottom one will definitely be the hardest because your wrench can easily go too far. So fish it in. It won't have to go very deep, and find that spring bar. Honestly, this takes me a good 10 minutes most of the time. I just did it recently, but it doesn't matter because it's going to take me 10 minutes again. But like, don't put this tool in too far. The spring bar that you're looking for is pretty shallow, so feel around until you feel you're pressing into something. This one goes straight up, and eventually you'll get this loose. Again, it's a huge pain in the ass, but this is the only way to do it. This is a bit of a better look at those spring bars. This is one, this is the other, and this is the bottom one. So when you have your tool, let me grab that real quick, and you're putting it into that bottom hole, what you're aiming for is right there, to press that, and that releases the airbag. Once you're there, of course, while the battery is disconnected, you're going to remove these 2 airbag connectors, and then there's also a ground right here. I'll show you how to do that. You pry these guys up. This is a 2-hand situation. And then for the ground, it is not just slide on, but it has a little tab right here. You have to press that tab before this will slide off. So press that tab in, and the whole connector slides out. This piece will also have to come off because it secures all the wires. You pull this little tab right here outward, and the plastic just slides off. You can see here I've disengaged that, removed it, and popped up these 2 orange bits. Once these 2 orange bits are out, the connector can just wiggle out. It's easier when you get a flat screwdriver and just stick it underneath the connector. And then that's it. Your airbag is out. Make sure to place it metal side down wherever it's going, just for safety. Now that we've got the airbag removed, you'll have to remove 2 connectors. The bottom one is going to be for your heated steering wheel if you have that equipped. The top one is going to be from the 2 button modules here that I don't have at the moment, but all you'll have to do is to just remove this connector. Next, you'll need a 10mm hex, and just remove this. Preferably not with an impact, but use whatever you need. Now, keep this bolt threaded in, and if the wheel hasn't been taken off before, you'll want to wiggle it until it's loose, because it might be tight and then pop out, and you don't want it to pop out and hit your face. So you keep the bolt halfway in. Once it's loose, remove the bolt. Make sure that the steering wheel is straight, which it is, and then remove the steering wheel, being careful to fish these wires through the gaps and not crush anything. And whatever you do, do not spin the clock spring. That will end badly. You will tear it, and then you will need a new one. So keep that clock spring exactly where it is now. Now we'll go to the bench, and I'll show you how to take apart the steering wheel. Now that we're on my extremely messy bench, you're going to remove these 2 screws to get this front fascia off. Once those 2 screws are out, this fascia will pop off, revealing one more screw down here. Once that screws out, the rear cover is going to be fairly easy to release, but you'll have these 2 sets of buttons in the way. These are not hard to remove, just very annoying. They have these 3 pins, 1, 2, and 3, that go into these holes. All you have to do is just wiggle and wiggle until they pop out, being careful not to break any of these internal clips, and both will come out with the harness like this. It's just kind of an annoying experience, but it's easy. Once you have that done, there will be these 2 pegs that are spread apart. Push those through, preferably with a pair of needle nose pliers, to get the rear cover off. And with the rear cover, you also have to watch out for the heated steering wheel connector. Use a pair of needle nose pliers to get that loose. You're just going to want to squeeze it and push it through, and then you can remove this rear cover. Once you have the rear cover loose, again, this is if you have a heated steering wheel, you'll peel it back and notice that the steering wheel elements are taped on. You can just pull that off because it's just double-sided tape, and then this panel can come fully off. And you have completely stripped down your wheel. This also gives you a better look at all the scratches from where I was trying to get the airbag out, because you push this up. And from there, if you want to retain your heated steering wheel on your new wheel, you're going to need to replace this connector. Now, the instructions will say to cut it off, but I do not want to cut any part of my harness, so I'm going to replace the connector. The only thing the connector I found that doesn't come with is this clip. So what you have to do, into the back where the wires are, you have to reach in here with a pin and pull that tab up, and this piece will slide outward. This is only if you really want to retain it and don't want to just cut it off here. If you want to cut it, it'll work just fine, but right now I'm going to remove it and put it on my new connector. This is my new steering wheel. This is courtesy of grstore.shop. No sponsor. I paid for this full price. I bought the heated version, which comes with just bare wires. Now I'm going to attempt to attach these bare wires to a new OEM style connector and see if I can get this plug and play. But until then, assembly is pretty much the reverse of what we did earlier. You put this panel on the back, put the 1 screw into it, you press your buttons into place here and here, and then this front panel will just slide on here and screw into these 2 places. And for now, I'll just get the wiring taken care of. Alright, so what I did here is just crimp on one of the included pins to both wires at the same time. This is not the most secure method, so I'm going to add a bit of solder to this. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. When it comes to the thin wires, you can solder them on or crimp them on either way. 1 thin wire to red, 1 thin wire to black. In the future, you'll just have to make sure that you get the polarity right on the connector itself. So I'm going to crimp this last one, add a little bit of solder just for some security, and then put them into the connector. You may want to ignore everything I said earlier, because it seems like crimping 2 wires into 1 pin works, but isn't the best idea, because the small wire fell out of the red one. I just ended up cutting it and crimping on one of these connectors. This is going to be heat shrinked, and then I'm going to wrap it in more tape. But this should be it. This should be the way they're supposed to be, with 1 thin wire on black, 1 thin wire on red, and black and red is in the same configuration as it was before. So with this stopper facing up, red is to the right, black is to the left. If we look at the original wheel, hi MR2, same orientation, same wire location, 2 empty pins. So that should be good for the wiring of this wheel. I'm going to test it in the car real quick, wrap it up with some Tessa tape, and reassemble the rest of the plastics on the wheel. The first step to reassembly is putting this black back plate on, which has the hole for the heated steering wheel connector. So make sure the heated steering wheel connector is behind the metal, and we'll just leave it right here. Place this over this so that the wire tucks into the plastic here, and then pop it into the 2 pegs here. And that's the only thing that holds it at the moment. Go to the front and you'll see where this connector should be. Make sure all of this is nicely tucked in. Very difficult with one hand, but there are spaces for all of this heater element to tuck in, and then clip this connector right here, like that, and then put in this screw right here. Once you have that on, you'll want to install the 2 sets of buttons right here. Now, you just line up the 3 pins and push them in. That's simple. It's a pain removing them, but very easy installing them. There you go. Buttons are secured and the connector is where it should be. And the last step is the front bezel. Slide that on, make sure it's not pinching any wires, then put in these 2 Phillips screws. Alright, so I slid the wheel onto the car. You feed these wires from the clock spring underneath this set of wires for the buttons on the steering wheel. So first you put the bolt in. Don't forget this. There is a specific torque for this bolt. Carefully use a torque wrench. And then you can start connecting things. This connector goes into the clock spring dead center, like that. Then you take the gray one for your heated steering wheel, clip that in here, and then connect your airbag. I can't do this with one hand, so I'll do that now and then come back to this. Okay, the 2 color-coded connectors are on. Push in the orange tabs so they stay in. And right here, you'll have 2 tabs, small and large. The small one is for this, and the large one is for the white plastic piece. So line them up and push them down. Once everything is installed, you can take your airbag, line it up with the 3 posts, and 3 clicks. Now, connect your battery, make sure nothing blows up, test every button to make sure it still works, and test the heated steering wheel. All right, it's the next day. I've tested everything. All the buttons work. The steering heater works. And I'm not too pleased with this video in the sense that it's the worst production quality I've ever put out, which is saying something. No tripod, in the dark, flash on, made multiple mistakes. But I was in a rush, and I'm happy that I made it anyway, because it's going to be difficult for a lot of people taking apart the steering wheel for the first time. It's not obvious how to take out the buttons or take out the back panel, and the airbag is a huge pain in the ass. So at least this video can help somebody take it apart. That, and I think that not having to cut the original wiring in the steering wheel is going to be a big deal to some. For most, it's not a problem. You know, just chopping off a connector and soldering it onto the new wheel isn't a big deal. The stock wiring on the car is fine. But some people will understand, and I'm glad I found the connector that works here. From my understanding, sometime in the future, these wheels from GR Shop are going to be plug and play because I gave him the info for the connector. So I'm also happy to be helping the car community. So hopefully this video helps somebody take apart the steering wheel safely and easily without breaking tabs or blowing up the airbag or something. And overall, I am very happy with the result. It's beautiful. It's not too flashy, and it matches my helmet. So don't forget to disconnect the battery when you're doing this, and have fun.